Welcome, everyone, to our very first lecture in the Principles of Ecology. Today, we are going to explore the fascinating world of terrestrial ecosystems. If you have ever marveled at a towering forest or wondered how life survives in a scorching desert, you are already thinking like an ecologist. These land-based communities are the foundation of human survival and home to an incredible diversity of life. By the end of this session, you will not only understand what these ecosystems are, but you will also learn how to mathematically measure their health and productivity. Let us dive in. To begin our journey, I want you to imagine you are taking a long road trip across a massive continent. As you look out your window, the scenery constantly changes. In one area, you might see towering green trees packed tightly together. A few days later, you are driving through a dry, sandy landscape with only a few spiky cacti. Why does this happen? These different neighborhoods of nature are what we call terrestrial ecosystems. They are simply the land-based communities where plants, animals, and microbes live together and interact with their physical surroundings. Understanding this variety is the first step in ecology. Now that we have pictured these different landscapes, we must ask what makes living on land so unique. Unlike life in oceans or lakes, life on land has to deal with a very specific set of harsh physical realities. First, there is gravity. A tree must build strong wood just to stand upright. Second, finding and keeping fresh water is a constant struggle, as it is not surrounding the organism. Finally, land environments experience wild swings in temperature, from freezing nights to scorching days. Overcoming these challenges is exactly what makes terrestrial ecosystems so incredibly diverse and resilient. Building on that intuition, let us look at the formal scientific definition. In the study of ecology, a terrestrial ecosystem is defined as a land-based community of living organisms and their non-living environment, all interacting together as one cohesive system. The word terrestrial actually comes from the Latin word terra, which simply means earth or land. This specific term is crucial because it distinguishes these land-based systems from aquatic ecosystems, such as oceans, rivers, and lakes. Everything we study in this topic will focus exclusively on the complex web of life that exists on solid ground. So, what actually determines whether a piece of land becomes a forest or a desert? The answer lies in two foundational elements: climate and soil. These ecosystems are primarily defined and shaped by their climate, specifically the long-term patterns of temperature and precipitation they receive over years and decades. Furthermore, the soil acts as the foundational matrix of the entire system. It isn't just dirt, it provides essential nutrients and physically anchors plant life. Those plants, in turn, support the entire food web. Without the right climate and healthy soil, the ecosystem simply cannot thrive. Because climate and soil vary so much across the globe, they create distinct categories of ecosystems. These major types of terrestrial ecosystems are often called biomes. Depending on where you are on Earth, you might find yourself in a tropical rainforest, which is warm and wet all year round. Or you might be in a temperate deciduous forest, where trees lose their leaves in the winter. Other major biomes include vast grasslands, the freezing taiga forests of the north, and the arid deserts. Each biome represents a unique evolutionary solution to the specific climate and soil of that region. Now that we know what these ecosystems are, we must understand why they matter so much to us. Terrestrial ecosystems are absolutely vital because they act as the primary life support systems for humanity and countless other species. Think about your daily life. These ecosystems are the source of almost all the food we eat. They provide the timber we use to build our homes and furniture. They even supply the natural fibers, like cotton and wool, that we use to make our clothing. We are entirely dependent on the tangible resources that these land-based communities produce every single day. Beyond those tangible resources we just discussed, these ecosystems perform critical invisible services that keep our planet habitable. For instance, forests and wetlands act as giant natural sponges, filtering our fresh water so it is safe to drink. They also absorb massive amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which is essential for regulating the global climate. If terrestrial ecosystems were to collapse or degrade significantly, we would face catastrophic food shortages, extreme climate change, and a massive loss of biodiversity. This is exactly why conservationists study these systems deeply to protect their delicate balance. To truly understand how well a terrestrial ecosystem is functioning, we cannot just look at the trees. We must measure the system's energy production mathematically. This brings us to a foundational concept called net primary productivity. The formula is NPP equals GPP minus R. Let us break that down. GPP stands for gross primary productivity, which is the total amount of solar energy that plants capture through photosynthesis. R stands for respiration, which is the energy the plants must burn themselves just to stay alive and grow. Finally, NPP is the net primary productivity. This is the actual amount of new plant biomass created and left over for animals to eat. If GPP increases due to abundant sunlight, NPP generally increases. But if respiration increases too much due to heat stress, NPP will drop, leaving less energy for the entire ecosystem. Let us see how this formula works in the real world by calculating the productivity of a lush tropical rainforest. A team of ecologists measures that the plants in a 1 square meter area capture 3,000 grams of carbon over a year. This is our gross primary productivity. However, because the forest is hot and active, the plants use 1,800 grams of carbon for their own cellular respiration. We want to find the net primary productivity. We take our formula, NPP equals GPP minus R, and substitute our values. We subtract 1,800 from 3,000. The result is 1,200 grams of carbon per square meter per year. This massive surplus of energy is exactly why tropical rainforests can support such a huge diversity of insects, birds, and monkeys. Now, let us compare that rainforest to a harsh, dry desert ecosystem using the exact same mathematical approach. In the desert, the sparse vegetation captures only 250 grams of carbon per year. This is our new GPP. The plants must work incredibly hard to survive the extreme heat and drought, using 150 grams of carbon for cellular respiration. To find the net energy available, we plug these specific values into our equation. We subtract the respiration, 150, from the gross productivity, 250. The result is a net primary productivity of just 100 grams of carbon per square meter per year. This drastically lower number perfectly explains why deserts have far fewer animals and much shorter food chains compared to rainforests. Because tropical rainforests have such a high net primary productivity, they can support incredibly complex physical structures, as we can see in this diagram. You are looking at the vertical stratification, or layering, of a rainforest. On the left, the axis shows the height in meters, going from 0 up to 50. At the very bottom, at 0 meters, we have the forest floor, where little sunlight reaches. Just above that is the understory. Moving up to between 20 and 30 meters, we see the dense canopy, which captures most of the sunlight. Finally, towering above everything else, up to 50 meters high, is the emergent layer. This diagram teaches us that abundant surplus energy allows life to literally stack on top of itself, creating multiple unique habitats within a single ecosystem. We have covered a lot of ground today, so let us review our key takeaways. First, we learned that terrestrial ecosystems are diverse, land-based communities where life adapts to the specific climate and soil of a region. Second, we saw that these ecosystems are vital, providing both tangible resources like food and timber, and invisible services like water filtration and climate regulation. Third, we used the net primary productivity formula to mathematically understand how much surplus energy is available to sustain the food web in different environments, comparing a lush rainforest to a barren desert. Ultimately, protecting these land-based systems is absolutely crucial, as they are the very foundation of human survival and global ecological balance. Thank you for joining me in this lecture.